Hello everyone, in this video we will be discussing about function overloading. Our agenda is to deal with what is function overloading, why function overloading is required and how to implement function overloading. So let's begin with what is function overloading. Function overloading is basically a feature in C++ which allows us to have more than one function which is similar but their parameters list are different. How their list becomes different? Either by changing the number of parameters or by changing the type of parameter list. In this example 1, you can see the function name is similar but their parameters are different. In example 1, their number of parameters are 2 and 3. And in second example, you can see their data type is different. Their number of parameters in both the functions are same, that is 2, but their data type is different. That is, in first int is the data type and second float is the data type. In general, you can not only overload functions, but you can also overload constructors and operators. Now the second point, that is why function overloading is required. It is because it increases the readability of the program, it increases the code readability, reusability and the implementing behavior of polymorphism. You should also note one major point, that is functions cannot be overloaded by changing the return type of the function. Now moving on to the restrictions on overloaded functions, you can say that any two functions with similar name must have different argument list. That is, either the number of parameters should be different or the type of data type should be different. And the second thing is, you can't say that a function is overloaded just by changing their return type. Like in this example, you have changed the return type is int and here the return type is float. You can't say like this that the function is overloaded. And the next thing is, member functions cannot be overloaded just on the basis of one being static and the other is non-static. So you need to clarify about this. And the next thing is, type def declarations do not define new types. Moving on to how to call overloaded functions. You can call just like any other function, you can call overloaded functions also, but you need to check the number and the type of argument which will determine the invocation of functions. And once you call a function, it matches the declaration part that the type and the numbers of parameters are similar or not, then it executes, it matches the function's types and numbers, then it executes the function. But sometimes ambiguity occurs in the case of float and double or in case of int or long. Now to avoid such ambiguity, you can use constant suffixes. Moving on to some of the examples to understand the process of function overloading. In this case, you can see we have used three functions with similar name area to calculate the area of circle, rectangle and triangle. What we needed to see in this example, here you can see that the data type is same in all. Float is the data type, but number of parameters are different in all three functions. Here in first case, parameter is 1, in second 2 parameters and third 3 parameters. When you call, if you pass 3 parameters list in a function, then this function will be invoked. If you pass 2 parameters in a function, then this function will be invoked, and similarly if you pass 1, then this function will be invoked. In this example, we can see by changing count of parameter. See, in this we have defined a function add with 2 parameters a and b and their data type is int. And in this second parameter, we have number of parameters are 2 and both are int. Now result AB and count addition will be calculated by adding these two parameters, value of these parameters, and here we will be multiplying. So you can see that the function is same but their operations are different in these two functions. And main what will we do, declare variables, then we will take the input and pass parameter AB. So the problem is, you would think which function will be invoked and executed. The problem is here. So in this, what happens, there are 3 parameters and there are 2 parameters. In first case, when you will pass 2 parameters, this function will be invoked, and in this case, when you pass 3 parameters, this function will be invoked. Okay, we will see the second example by changing type of parameters. In first case, you are seeing that type is float but 2 parameters. Here type is int and 2 parameters are there. So in main, when you will see where you are passing parameters, there are two parameters. So the problem is which function will be executed, because in both the function there is number of parameters are 2. So which function will be invoked? Since you are passing a and b and their data type is int, this function, the function with int data type will be invoked and executed. Okay, moving on to another example. By changing type of parameters, if you change type of parameters, see, you can see in first float is there are float, two number of parameters are true, and here number of parameters are true but data type is int. So if you can see in the main part, you have declared two variable with data type float, and when you are passing here ab, ab is of type float. So this function will be invoked because here in this float is the data type, so they will invoke this function. I hope you understood what is function overloading and how it works, and thank you for watching our video.